Hey guys, what's up? It's me, PigBoy25 here, and today I am bringing you another coaster review. It's been about 2 weeks since my last video, and I have been quite busy as of late. I've been trying to adjust back to spring break life. Spring break, I had like a lot of dog sitting clients. You guys, long-time subscribers should know I do a pet sitting for money for the side, so I can fund trips for the summer, but especially to get new credits. And also, I had a whole week of school where I had to acclimate getting back into spring break, and now I've finally found some time on this Sunday afternoon here. And I'm going to be sharing my thoughts on Tatsu at Six Flags Magic Mountain, a B&M flying coaster. There is no prelude or introductory message into it. We just jump right into this thing. Here we go. Now, I always start with drop on these reviews because it's usually just a good way to kick things off on a coaster and with these things. Now, keep in mind with these reviews, the scores on the bottom don't actually really matter to the final score, but rather it's just an index for what to expect from the drop. And compared to other B&M flying coaster drops, I think this one definitely is one of the better ones. Considering it's taller, it's faster, it's I think a little steeper as well than like the Superman Ultimate Flight drops. I think overall it's a really good drop for a flying coaster to have. And for B&M drops, it might, or just curved drops in general, it might be one of the best I've ever experienced. Coming close to like rivaling Mystic Timbers for a curved drop. They're both quite good. And I give the drop a solid 7. I really think that there's not exactly a major one. I think the Superman descent is like 45 degrees. This one's probably like 50 to 60 degree angle of descent. Uh, like 50, 55. Because couldn't find an actual angle of descent on like RCDB, Wikipedia, or any sort of online forum with like 10 minutes of searching. So I'm just going to say it's greater than Superman Ultimate Flight's drops. And keep in mind, Superman will also come up a lot because that's the only other flying coaster from B&M I've ridden. 2 of them actually, one at Over Georgia and one at Great America. So I'll be comparing those to this quite a bit. And the intensity, unlike Superman clones, this thing actually comes closer to the Vekoma Dutchman style of intensity. It's a more of an aggressive flyer. It's got more G's. It's got a more rapid pace than the grace of the B&M Superman flyers. And I think also the extra inversions help to this. And the positive G's at the bottom of the pretzel loop going into the mountain is unmatched. This is a terrain coaster. This is like above the terrain at its finest. There's a lot of terrain interaction in this coaster. There's quite a bit of intensity, and I really think that this is one of the best flying coasters because of its intensity. Not necessarily it's low to the ground, but it also has quite a few, like, it has a few near misses, has some good inversions. That pretzel loop is unmatched for positive G-force. It's an absolutely phenomenal ride. That pretzel loop depicted in the bottom left is what you're looking at. It is absolutely ginormous. You're falling forever. It is an incredible element. And even almost a year on, I still remember this pretzel loop quite fondly. The duration, this thing's about roughly average duration. From the chain lift disengagement to the first brake run, because first brake run I'm saying, this thing has 2 brake runs. This thing has a brake run to slow down the ride. Then there's a small drop followed by a left turn to get back to the dual loading station. I do not count that left turn into the dual loading station with a drop as part of the ride layout because you only do that at like 20 miles an hour. It's not a very fast element. It's not part of the actual ride. It's just to get you back to the station. So from there, the first drop is 45 seconds roughly. It could be plus or minus, most likely plus a few seconds, or depending on where you count the disengagement, or minus, plus or minus like a couple seconds. The ride feels long enough. It's a average duration. I didn't think I was underwhelmed by how long this ride was. It felt just right for a flyer. I think it could have been maybe 5 seconds longer, but I think because of the pacing, it just is that way. The pacing made up for the shorter ride experience. So still a 5 out of 10 for the duration. The airtime, well, this is a B&M flyer we're talking about. The airtime is not exactly the main focus of the ride. Most of the airtime you get in this ride is unintentional, to say at least. You might get some pops of negative G's from the inversions. You might get some hang time as well from other places because you're on a flying coaster. And the small peaks going in and out of the pretzel loop, as well as the pop into the first brake run, gives you a tiny bit of negative G's just because of upward force. But those are so negligible that really, I have to give it credit for those airtime moments existing. It's not like an airtimeless ride. But I do have to say that this ride is not focused on airtime. This ride is more focused on the inversions, the sensation of flying, the intensity, the terrain. It's more focused on those moreover than airtime. 2 out of 10 for the airtime, but that's to be expected from a flying coaster. Smoothness. This ride is very smooth. I had no problems with how smooth this ride was at all. Smoother than Superman, any Superman clone I've ever ridden, considering that it's like 5 years younger than than the youngest one I ridden. The ride didn't really have a rattle, wasn't really uncomfortable. It was smooth, and it just had a lot of moments. There was not really a major jarring moment unless the pretzel loop is just too intense for the rider, which to me, I'm used to it. I love pretzel loops, and this one wasn't uncomfortable to me in the slightest. It was just positive G's. If positive G's make you uncomfortable, then you might lose on smoothness. But this ride is quite smooth. I do not remember there being a rattle. I was thinking about giving this thing a 9.5, but I was like, you know what, let's just give a 10 out of 10 on smoothness. I think I go a little hard on smoothness at times. This thing is quite smooth. I don't remember any sort of thing. I think this thing is probably the smoothest ride in the park, I'll say. Now we have the restraints. Tatsu actually features slightly different restraints than the previous flyers. I think they were just like a more modern version of the B&M things. I think the vest restraints, so like they're little less bulky, the vest restraints. And then the foot restraints, if I remember correctly, are a little more triangular. Like there's a little triangular piece that kind of juts into your foot. It's like made of a different material as well. It feels smoother, but not necessarily softer. So overall, I think that Tatsu's restraints are definitely welcome. It's B&M flyer restraints are the most comfortable, definitely more comfortable than those Vekoma Flying Dutchman restraints. It's definitely, yeah. These restraints also just surprised me the most going into the station. I was expecting to have exactly Superman's restraints. I didn't think they'd change them. I knew the vest restraint, lap bar, foot guards, but I thought it would be exactly the same as Superman. No, it's different material. And also Magic Mountain's poor operations. That surprised me because what should have been like a 20-minute wait turned into a 40-minute wait because I don't even know if they were running the other side. I don't even know if they're running 3 trains. I know they were running at least 2. Inversions. Tatsu only features 4 inversions, but I think all of them are worthy enough to stand alone. Or like if you can pick just 2 of them out, I think those 2 will stand just fine alone on a flying coaster. 0G roll in prone position, my first ever one. A 0G roll while flying position is an absolutely wonderful experience. It's my first that I've ever experienced. I've only ever experienced inline twists and pretzel loop. The pretzel loop we talked about earlier is just excellent, and the inline twists always welcome on a flying coaster. Because, I don't know, it's just what you do when you're flying. If you're flying, you just twist to go upside down while you're going straight forward. All these inversions are really good. Despite having 4, I'm going to over double my base score. Because how I work with inversions for the score category, you get 1 point for every inversion you have, and bonus points for the quality of inversions. And since these inversions are all of such high quality, I'm giving this inversions category a solid 9 out of 10. This thing, they're absolutely phenomenal. And the theming, the last category. This thing has a loose Asian oriental theme, mostly in the station. The front part of the queue is just cattle pens, switchbacks. There's not a lot of theming there. You're just in a hut with a bunch of switchbacks. And then you get into like some sort of dojo station. You got some characters on the railing, Asian characters. Don't know if it's Chinese or Japanese. It could be both, or not both. It could be either. Eastern music will be playing in the station, or at least in the lower levels of the station. And really, that's about it. It's a loose Asian theme, but then there's also a dragon, and it looks more like a Western dragon than an Eastern dragon on the logo as well. So it's kind of loosely strung together. The whole thing's kind of flimsy, and just give this theming a solid 2 out of 10. It's not like perfectly identifiable. You can just get Asian or Oriental out of it. And the overall scores, it received a flat 50 out of 80 in terms of adding up all the 8 scores over the 8 categories. Averaging them gives us a 6.25 rating out of 10. But I am going to give this thing a 9 out of 10. Tatsu is a phenomenal ride and must ride at Six Flags Magic Mountain, or if you're in the area to begin with. If you're going to Disney, come to Magic Mountain. Ride Tatsu and Twisted Colossus and the supporting cast. If you're going to Knott's Berry Farm, make a trip up to Six Flags Magic Mountain. Ride Tatsu, Twisted Colossus, and the supporting cast. It's just, this thing's phenomenal, and I think people can easily justify coming a couple hundred miles coming to ride this thing. I mean, I just happened to be in the area with Knott's Berry Farm, Universal Studios, and this thing was, I had free entry to Magic Mountain, so we were planning a bulk trip together to go to California. I came all the way from freaking Illinois to ride this thing, though it wasn't my number one agenda, unlike going to driving 12 hours to Carowinds to ride Fury. Yeah. This thing also, I will say, just a little word of caution. It often does not open with the park. I remember I got the park, rode Revolution, tried going to X2, Viper, Tatsu, and Apocalypse, and they were all closed by like 10:45, 11 o'clock after the park opened, or had opened. X2 is having mechanical problems, but there's no excuse for Viper and Tatsu. Don't even think they were understaffed. They weren't even testing it. It was kind of ridiculous. It was shabby. So I ended up having to ride this thing midday. I was hoping to ride it fourth in the park lineup, but I ended up riding it like second to last. Or not second to last, like fourth to last. So, yeah. Magic Mountains, the rest of Magic Mountain's cast isn't really open either, at least on the left side. I don't know about the right side, but Magic Mountain's operations are dog poop. So that'll about do it. This has been my thoughts on Tatsu, a full review on Tatsu at Six Flags Magic Mountain. If you guys enjoyed the video, feel free to leave a like, comment, or subscription, and I hope you guys have a great insert unit of time here, and as always,